course is very dear to me because I got my degree on that on this topic, and it was somehow well appreciated in Delhi school also by my professors like Professor Krishna and Professor Pulin Naik and Panda and.
Disturbance. There is a disturbance.
Can you?
Srinivas sir, మీరు మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి.
And here we have, in fact, this is the topic sanitation is a very unfashionable topic for research. Basically, you hardly find anyone doing a PhD or research on sanitation in these elite universities, and it is certainly not a very fashionable topic to work on. But somehow I have my heart. It's very dear to my heart because I am from a village where we went through open defecation for many years, and as Dr. James said, it still remains there, and it's a very serious problem. And sanitation is not only a social problem, but it is also an emotional and a problem or issue related to the dignity of women. The open defecation by a woman being forced to go for open defecation is a national shame. In fact, I would call it, it's a national shame. It's not shame for herself, it is shame for all of us. And similarly, as Dr. James said, the manual scavenging, this is something which makes all of us extremely ashamed. And these two aspects obviously inspired me to work on this topic. And I realized afterwards, that providing sanitation to people, to all the people, whether it is poor or rich. Of course, rich people will always have all the elite, all these good facilities of life, good things of life. Even I realized that the government especially can provide sanitation, clean sanitation to each and every household in this country, because it is not expensive at all. It is very cheap. Frankly, it is very, very affordable, I would say. So that's why I would say it's not like providing an air conditioner to every home, but you can certainly provide a decent toilet to every home in this country. It's very much affordable. And that much of resources Indian government is capable of collecting and spending. But unfortunately, still a smaller section of the society is still remaining without access to sanitation and clean drinking water. But things have improved after this present government has come. It has become a sort of a national mission, and the lead is because sanitation and building toilet is not a very fashionable thing to do for the prime ministers. Prime ministers love to talk about foreign policy and defense policy and nuclear policy, non-proliferation. There are so many fashionable topics like international trade and so many good things to talk about. You hardly find a prime minister who talks about sanitation and toilets and chadu and all those things. Well, there are the first committee on manual scavenging, as Dr. James was referring to, was formed by when Mr. Lal Bahadur Shastri was the Prime Minister. And the work has started then still is continuing. As Dr. Sampath said, in a very large country, in a very complex country with an enormous population, it's not easy to solve the problems, and but where there is a will, there is a way. You can easily do that. You cannot say that you can't take the excuse that we are a huge population, huge country, and there is no water in Barmer and Beknir, so we cannot provide clean drinking water. That cannot be an excuse. You should. It can be easily done because the reason is the resources are there, enough resources are there in the country. No, it is absolutely, there is no excuse to say that there is shortage of resource in this country for cleaning toilets. No, not at all. Nobody, no sensible person would accept it. We have enough resources. And one more thing is, it hardly requires any technology. It hardly requires any machine. It hardly requires any advanced technical personnel training to build a clean toilet, because it just needs 750 bricks, just 750 bricks, 2 or 2.5 bags of cement, and 2 workers. If the owner of the home can also become 1 worker, so he needs 1 more worker. That's it. And you need a mason to advise how to make it, and it can be built. At the present cost, it can be built around by a decent toilet, a smellless toilet. If you spend around 4,000 to 5,000 rupees, not more than that. You don't need. Well, you can have a toilet for 1 lakh rupees also, but it is a decent toilet, a clean toilet can be built within below 5,000 rupees. So that much we can have. We can spare that much money, and we don't need any machines. You don't need any imported engineers, American engineers or British machines, etc. for this. So that means this can be done. This can be done very much by our own people with a little bit of training, of course. In 1980s, I wanted to build a toilet for my parents in my village, a remote village in Vizag district, Visakhapatnam district. I found that there was no technology. There was nobody who could help me, because the spread of knowledge or spread of information about making a toilet was not there. Not that it's not available in the country, but it hasn't spread. It is very much there in cities, etc., like cities like Hyderabad or Visakhapatnam, but it is certainly not available in villages and small towns. And this is one thing. And one more point is, yes, I will start with Mahatma Gandhi, as Dr. James was referring to. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi, I'm sure all of us know it. I'm speaking on a topic which is not everyone. So I'm not telling you something new which you don't know. I'm just repeating what you already know. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi said once, the political freedom can wait, but the freedom from insanitation, squalor, muck, garbage, and human waste, and the spread of human waste on the roads, etc., and unclean, unhygienic environment is more important. The freedom from this insanitation is more important, and it should be achieved very quickly. Political freedom can wait a little bit. That's what he said. That he was so close to the sanitation was so close to his mind and heart. And one more thing, once he was traveling on a ship to England. The Indian workers came to him and told him that the British were insulting him. They were not allowing him to go to the upper decks. Gandhiji said, don't blame British for everything. You maintain cleanliness. You don't stink. You take bath. And though you are poor, still you can remain clean. In fact, there is a little relationship between money or average income and average cleanliness. This is, in fact, has no positive correlation at all. A poor man also can remain clean. A poor man, in fact, can remain and look cleaner than even a rich man. Most of the rich men stink from their mouth, and whereas Gandhiji said you don't need to be rich to be clean. So this is what the advice he gave to the Indian workers. He said, still you can maintain cleanliness. So maintain your toilets in the ship cleanly, and British will never misbehave with you, on something like that he said. And one more point is, there are so many positive externalities. As student about finance, all of us know you have many positive externalities. If you have good sanitary environment or cleanliness in the country, it will have tremendous impact, a positive impact or positive externality on the economic growth. Like, for example, you'll have more tourists. You'll have lots of tourists will come. And a lot of public investment also will come. As Pavilion Singh once wrote, the difference between a developed country and a so-called developing country is cleanliness, good sanitation, access to good drinking water and education, and of course, hospitals, public health institutions, good hospitals. So these things can be achieved easily with little expenditure. And there is certainly no excuse. It's no excuse. You cannot say that we don't have enough money to provide a clean toilet for people and drinking water to people. These are very much achievable because very little expenditure is needed in this sector. And as I was telling Reddy Garu, I have seen some villages where you don't find any doctors, you don't find any mosquitoes, you don't find anyone, you don't see anyone falling sick. I had a small UNICEF project, so I went to Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, and I spoke to those those public health engineers there, and those DMs and all. They said there are many villages in their districts where there is no need to doctor. There is no need of any doctor at all because the sanitation has been inculcated as a good habit in the minds and lives of the people. So they were told how to maintain their toilets, and they are especially told how to maintain the drains, sewages, the sewage canals and the drains cleanly and keep them dry, and especially the hand pumps which they use in the village, and they are taught how to maintain them very cleanly, and that prevented mosquitoes, and that prevented virtually all types of diseases. One more plus point I will tell you, one more I like to share with you is most of our villagers are very healthy because they work very hard, unlike us people in Delhi and other cities. They work very hard, so they have tremendous immunity. And if you provide them clean environment also, environment free of garbage, free of dirt, free of muck, free of squalor, filth, etc., they will never fall sick. And they told me, the village sarpanch told me, we don't need a doctor at all. And none of us go to a doctor. He said, I was so happy. It's something unbelievable for me. But I myself fall sick in Delhi every month due to bronchitis and cough and cold. So these are the positive externalities, the enormous benefits out of a simple thing, like a small thing like a toilet, a small equipment or small instrument called toilet. You can easily maintain it, make it smell free, and make it clean, and make it presentable, and use it 4 or 5 times a day. And all of us know, whenever human beings congregate or live in a place, large number of them, they produce, obviously, they consume a lot of things. Human beings consume a lot of things, lots of food, lots of goods, they consume a lot of things, and obviously, when they consume, they produce a lot of waste. And an average human being produces around 350 to 400 grams of human waste, around 2 to 2.5 liters of urine. So imagine, multiply this with 130 crore people or 1,300 million people, you have rivers and rivers or oceans of urine and mountains of human waste. So the issue here is how to manage this waste in an environmentally friendly way, in a clean way, in a safe way, in a very presentable way, in a very scientific and intelligent way, so that waste and urine will not become a source of disease and problems for the human beings, for the people who live here. And many Western countries have done it, and we have learned how to do it now. Now, slowly we are picking up. It has become a revolution now. I feel so happy that whenever I go, I see drains, and as Dr. Sampath said, the problem is still there. It's very, very rampant. It's still very serious. However, much better than, we are happy that because it's much, much better than what it was when I was a college student or a school student. So that makes us happy. But doesn't mean that the problem is completely solved at all. I'll come to the issue raised by Dr. Sampath. Take the drains, the sewerage lines in all the cities. His points are very pertinent, very pertinent, because we have beautiful roads and beautiful apartments surrounded by dirty drains, fully sewers, full of squalor, muck, and garbage and plastics. And why this is so? Now you think about it. You go to any other country. I'm sure all of you, and all of us go around the world. So you see any small tiny country like Malaysia, like Cambodia, or Myanmar, or Sri Lanka. These countries are so clean. Do you mean that, or do you say that they are richer than India? By no means. By no means. They are absolutely no match for India in other sectors. They don't have a single college of quality. They cannot build a railway line of 10 kilometers or 2 kilometers on their own without being helped by other countries like Japan or South Korea. They cannot do it, but still they're extremely clean. That makes me happy. And that's why I said there's a negative correlation or no link. There's no link between average income or the GDP of a country and the quality of sanitation or the level of sanitation in that country. Take example of Cambodia or Myanmar or Vietnam. There's simply no match for India in any sphere or any sector by and large. But they are very clean. They are far more cleaner than India. Why it is so? It is not about money and machines and technology and engineers and IITs and IIMs. No, not at all. As Dr. Sampath said, it is basically will. It's a willpower of the bureaucracy. And here, after and willpower, of course, the leadership. And I like to emphasize more on the leadership of the bureaucrats in each district in achieving good, spectacular achievements in their districts in sanitation. I've seen some districts. I went to a district, I think Jabalpur, long back, during that project, and the DM, the collector, young boy, he told me that before the toilet revolution took place or initiated, there used to be 700 to 800 deaths due to cobra bites in Jabalpur district. And there were around 400 to 500 miscarriages by women, pregnant women. I asked him how you link a toilet to cobras and miscarriages. He said, in Jabalpur, is a district full of forests, the Vindhyas and the thick jungles. So in these villages, everybody, all the people, human beings go for defecation 4 times, normally 3 times a day, normally 4 to 5 times of urination, or 2 to 3 times, or 2 times on average for defecation. If you have a bad stomach or a loose stomach, well, you go more number of times. So in the rainy season, the monsoon season, Jabalpur district is full of cobras. Those villages and those forest villages are full of cobras. These men and women, poor men and women, who are subjected to go for open defecation on the roads in the night when it is raining, they were bitten by cobras, and 700 people is to die. And the heavily pregnant women, naturally they cannot go in the day out because they're being watched by people, so they naturally prefer to go in the night. So what happens? They hold the waste in their stomach the whole day, and that's a very disastrous situation for them, especially for a pregnant lady. Their entire gastronomic situation and their stomach and their intestines are subjected to torture, and it spoils, and a lot of infections to take place. It generates a lot of infections, and they used to go out in the open, and they used to because it's raining, when they walk on the road in the village, they fall down, they slip, and they miscarriage. Miscarriage takes place. So the DM told me, after the toilets are built in all these villages, the 700 cobrabite deaths have disappeared, and virtually no miscarriages are reported now. I was very, very pleased. I think this is the best reward for the work on toilets. What more you want? You are saving. It is able to save a lot of innocent women, poor women, and many poor and innocent people, men and women, from cobra bites. And the third angle is the self-respect and the dignity of women. That's very, very important, as all of you have just mentioned. The dignity, if you cannot protect the dignity of your women and girl child, your GDP of 3.5 or 3.8 or 4.2 trillions is of no use. It makes no sense to me at all. It is waste, sheer waste, and it's as good as nothing. So you can provide the privacy or the privacy to defecate for women and children, young children, girl children, and protect their health too. Dignity, their dignity, basic dignity, and health. So these are some of the things which I found in my work. And one more point is the average. I don't want to get into the economics of it, too much of economics of it, and the technicalities or calculations, the statistical and econometric tools we use. It's not a place to do those things. You find that the average health expenditure, the average health expenditure of people per household will come down drastically if you concentrate on sanitation, if you concentrate on building of toilets and making the people use it. Building a toilet is much easier than making the people use it. Is a different thing. It's a different game totally. There are many people who build toilets but still don't use them. And in some villages I found there are many toilets are being built, but still the men folk prefer to go to farm their fields and open defecate there. Of course, the men, women and girl children normally use the toilets. So change of mindset, building toilet is much easier than making people actually use it, and preventing them to go for open defecation is a difficult thing. In fact, it's a difficult goal to achieve. The penalties and fines are of little help, not much of help. They do help sometimes, but not much helpful. So the best thing is to persuade them, to educate them, to make them agree in a discussion. If you send your extension workers and convince people in a peaceful way, in a dignified way, in a friendly way, and making them come around to your point and making them agree without using any force or penalty or fine or etc., penal code, etc. So this can be done. So that means there is a role of social workers. A lot of social workers a role of social worker is extremely important. You can say NGOs and even the government organizations have social workers. Many departments I found in the states have social workers. Sociology, the students of MS Sociology or PG in Sociology and Social Work doing this type of work, going around and convincing people about the utility of a toilet. Because unless you go to the ground, unless you go to the village, you will not know the actual problems that prevail there. It's not question of money and cement and bricks and the sanitary equipment, etc., which is produced by these companies, private sector companies and private sector companies, which are some affordable and which are very expensive also. So it's the groundwork. The the ground realities are different, and it's especially I found in some villages in around Surat, some villages, the minorities where minorities stay, the Muslims stay, they found it very hard to convince them. They told me, I was surprised. I said, it is equal for all. The problem is same for whichever God you pray to, it hardly matters. But I found it. But interestingly, with a little bit of the social workers going around and convincing the people, they found it so easy. All the villages have become very clean now. All the villages, this village, that village. It is. That's why we find that it is a toilet revolution is neutral to education, neutral to religion, neutral to caste, neutral to region. It has nothing to do with education, income, religion, region, status even, because it needs a good social worker to convince these people that, well, you need not convince the people, a person in Hyderabad or Delhi University about the utility of a toilet. But it is a very need to educate these people in villages. And you can usually do that by with love, with goodwill, and good and affection and goodwill, and you can talk to them with love and make them come around to your point. And it's very easy. It's not difficult at all. Though slightly in the beginning it's difficult. And let me talk about some superstitions also. There are some superstitions, especially in Andhra. I found that there are many villages where they say that if you build a toilet inside your home, the material that goes into the ground 5 feet or 10 feet below the ground where you stay is very poisonous, and it brings bad luck, ill luck to the household. So this type of mental blocks are also very, very difficult, more difficult than the bureaucratic blocks, bureaucratic blockades, or bureaucratic difficulties which you face in any public welfare program. So, and here also the role of a social worker. So I found that the role of economists is very, very little here, and the role of social worker is very, very pertinent and very important in solving the problem of insanitation in India. I found one more thing is, as I said, a little bit of information and facts and figures I would like to give. If you spend 1 rupee or $1, let's I'll call 1 rupee. If you spend 1 rupee on sanitation, you save at least 9 to 9.5 rupees on health expenditure. That means if you spend 100 rupees on sanitation, you're almost saving around 995 rupees or 1,000 rupees on government public expenditures. That means the government public expenditure, or that state government, will go down by 8 times or 9 times. That's the beauty of this. So the preventive mechanism, sanitation is nothing but prevention, basically prevention of the diseases, which can be easily prevented. Well, it's not as dangerous or as risky or complicated like coronavirus. Most of the diseases spread through insanitation. For example, take diarrhea. In India, I can give the numbers also. I'm more interested in talking about certain facts which I came across than numbers and percentages and figures, etc. Every minute, four children die due to diarrhea in the world, roughly, approximately. So by the time you finish your lecture in the classroom, 16 to 4, 240 children would have died already somewhere in the world due to diarrhea alone. And diarrhea is one disease which can be easily prevented. And it is due to, of course, insanitation and dirty water, basically consumption of dirty water. And due to the spread of that virus, or you can call it bacteria, to air. That means if a rich man has a koti, has a villa, has a big building, but his neighborhood has open defecation. So the virus from the open defecation from the neighborhood can come and kill his child also. That's why I said it is neutral to income and status, social status, and financial status. So you can call it a public bad. Public bad here are negative externality to have an insanitary environment around your house. So this can be solved by good policies. It's not a difficult policy at all. It can be easily implemented. So what it requires is, I have found, is not much money at all. What it requires is to have firm resolve. As Dr. Sampath said, you need will, basically. That is the most important word, not money at all. That much money we can generate. We generate so much tax revenue. Most of it, of course, going to various sectors, you know it. Whether it's wasted or spent well, etc., etc. So most of it, most of these problems can be easily solved. If you have resolved, I have seen. That's what I come back to bureaucratic resolve. If the civil servants or the bureaucrats or the district leadership, or you can call it the panchayat leadership, is committed, you can make the village cleaner in a month or so, and no, there won't be any mosquito at all in this. There won't be any muck or any squalor on that. Examples, there are some more diseases, like for example, tetanus. Tetanus normally spreads through the excreta of horse and camel, and even our cows and buffaloes. In fact, in Telugu, it's called Gurupuvatam. Tetanus is called Gurupuvatam. So it was found, it used to spread through the excreta of horses during those days. That's why it is called Gurupuvatam. But it spreads through the excreta of all other animals also. So what is the solution now? I found in some villages in Madhya Pradesh and all the states, I found that this can be easily solved by collecting this and making, as you said, bio-waste or a sort of biogas, or and they call it Nordic or vermicompost. Of course, all of us know vermicompost, and all this. Some land is provided at the margins, at the end of the distant corner of the village, and where these are all collected, and even the kitchen waste, etc., etc. So bio-waste is converted into fertilizer. So if you can convert waste into wealth, W to W, and you can convert this waste to fertilizer, like vermicompost or bio-waste, biofertilizer, etc. And they can do wonders for the agriculture. And the farmers are asked to use that vermicompost compost and the biocompost for their farm. And obviously it becomes organic agriculture. And your bananas and vegetables will have a demand, will fetch and attract higher price, will get higher price in the market also. So it's a win-win situation. So what I mean to say is, if these type of tricky problems can be solved by creating a win-win situation in villages and urban areas. Well, as Dr. Sampath said, the problem is very, very serious in urban areas, because the reason is also very simple. Though there is, in the urban area, there is more focus and more will to solve the problem, but the problem is quite enormous, quite big in size, because of the enormous population our villages have. So all the cities are dirty. You show me one city which is not dirty, rather, I would say like that. Show me one state which is not dirty. Show me one sewer in India which is clean. I am yet to found a clean sewer in India, even now. Whereas you find in smaller countries like Malaysia or Sri Lanka, all the sewers are very clean. I stay in KL, in Malaysia. I found most of the sewers are very clean. That's built very well, high quality cement sewers and rainwater sewers and drains. They're extremely clean. That's why you don't find any mosquito there at all. So we are not able to do it. That means here we have a problem again. It's a policy problem. You can call it a policy trap. You have large number of people in one small place like Delhi or Bombay or Calcutta or Hyderabad, etc. A large number of people, around 2 crore people or 1.5 crore people or 3 crore people staying in one place, one small place called a city, a metropolitan city. And obviously, they consume a lot of stuff, lot of food. 3 crore people obviously consume a lot of food and lot of water, etc., etc. And they produce a lot of waste, a lot of human waste and a lot of urine. So you have to find a technology. You have to find a technique rather. Technologies are always available. You have to find a technique to manage it in an environmentally friendly way. Now here you have a catch. Here you have a catch. It's not impossible at all. No sensible fellow would ever say it is impossible. It is very much possible, and very much possible within the realm or within the capacity of Indian technology, Indian engineers, Indian managers, and Indian workers, etc., etc. But still, we are not able to do it because the reason is you can call it property rights in the economics jargon. So because they are not well defined, and here the role of the government, role of the state, and the role of the private sector also come into play. The governments find it very difficult to do this type of work, and because governments, all of us agree, by birth or by inception, are inefficient. So here you have to find a solution out of the public sector, out of the government's purview. Well, how about the role of private sector here? Here, private sector obviously is very successful in certain things. Your Indigo Airlines or Airtel telephone, all of us, I'm sure, all of us are using Airtel or other private sector chips for communication. Certainly not very few will be using BSNL now, I guess. So for whatever reason, so here, if you are able to link the private sector efficiency to solve this problem, you can. I think you will achieve it. You will make it clean. You can solve this problem. It's a very complicated problem. It's not easy because, as I said, millions and millions of liters of waste and urine is dumped every day into our drains, and it remains unclean there for years and years in the sewers. Then what happens? It becomes a source of very dangerous bacteria and viruses, and it explodes. So you have new types of viruses like dengue, which was not there in our childhood. Now it is rampant everywhere, in summers especially. So you don't find dengue in many countries because we have untreated waste, scalar and muck and garbage in our seas. As he said rightly, I was very impressed by Dr. Sampath's collection of information on this. Thank you, Dr. Sampath. I was reading about Delhi's.
It's James, sir. He's not Sampath, it's James.
I'm sorry, Dr. Prashant. I'm sorry, Dr. James. I'm sorry, please. I apologize. My apologies, Prashant.
Not at all. The introduction was actually prepared by Ms. Swati Mishra.
Okay. Thank you. So, for example, when the Delhi was designed, Delhi city was built. It was built for 6 lakh people. It was, and he said, the person who built it, all of us know, he said 11 lakh people can live in this very comfortably. That's it. He said it is built those days around 1947, 42 to 47, 48. Only 6 to 7 lakh people are living here. He said it can accommodate even 11 lakh people. Now we have around 1.6 crore people in this area now, so-called NCR region. And one public health engineer told me the drains which were built, the sewage lines which were built by the British, haven't been cleaned in the last 70 years, now 75 years. Haven't been cleaned at all because every government neglects it. So in rainy season, the water doesn't go into the drains because they are all full already with garbage and solid garbage, solidified garbage. And so water, obviously roads will become rivers, no wonder. Now, I asked him, why you cannot do it? What's the big deal in this? He said, that's how क्या होता है कि if you leave the garbage and all these things inside the sewer for a few years, it becomes rock solid. It becomes as strong, as solid as concrete. So now we have to open it and literally blast it and then clean it with the raw water. And it needs a lot of effort and work and some money also and a lot of raw water, which you don't have now. So it's a catch-22 situation in Delhi now. I'm talking about Delhi. I can talk about Delhi because I meet all these guys here and there in the seminars. So so now that's why all the sewers and drains are full of garbage and muck, which has accumulated for 75 years or more than that. So same is the story in all the cities in India also. So you have to find a solution now. All the sewages and sewages are it's very funny to see beautiful apartment buildings being built surrounded by wall-flowing sewers full of muck and garbage and dirt and filth and oozing out a horrible smell. It is very funny. It's very unfortunate and very sad also. So because we haven't focused on this problem. I think Mr. Prashant I feel the trust between the urban dwellers and the municipal corporations, say Visakhapatnam or Hyderabad or Delhi, should be rebuilt. The loss of fight between especially loss of fight or the loss of credibility of the municipal administration, or you can call it local government, in the minds of the people is the reason. Once you are able to build the trust between the urban dwellers like you and me and the municipal corporation, the problem can be solved. I think. How I feel, it is my opinion. In other countries, the house taxes and the local tax are still very low for people like you and me at least. Still, we are not taxed well and taxed high. As to the public finance, that's my opinion. For example, you take any city, even if you neutralize the per capita incomes, you find that in cities in the Western countries or even countries like Malaysia and Sri Lanka, the urban housing is taxed well, but the money is spent well. The money is spent very efficiently with the little scope of corruption and wastage. In India, we don't want to pay 100 rupees more as house tax to the municipal corporation of Delhi because we feel that the money will be corrupted or wasted or embezzled. That's the problem. Sorry. So once this mistrust is removed, taxes can be raised by say 10% or 20%. And since our scale economies help us in doing all these things at lower cost with the same efficiency as the Western countries do, we can certainly improve the things in the urban areas also. For example, if you improve the house tax a little bit by 10% or 15%, that surplus which is generated from the house tax can be utilized for cleaning the drains and sewers, not certainly by the workers, municipal corporations, not at all. I feel here is my firm conviction. I'm sure some of you will disagree with me, and that's the beauty of our discussion. If the private sector is shown some profit in this, we create a win-win situation where it is profitable for the private sector to keep the drains clean and do a contract or municipal contract to those guys with all those regulations, etc., and under the proper regulatory mechanism like telephone regulatory authority and efficient organization like TRI, you can solve the problem, I feel. So that India can also have clean drains and clean sewers without filled garbage and 75-year-old solid garbage that is being there deposited since independence. This can be, I think, easily. I think you can find out a solution out of this. Here, markets won't fail here. Normally, markets fail. Market failure is always there in social services, social goods, especially like education, health. All of us agree there is no second opinion. You don't have to study economics to say this. Markets fail. Normally, they do fail miserably in providing these very important social goods like education and health. And and one more point I would like to say is in the sanitation sector, if the health and health parameters are improved due to rise in sanitation, we'll be a much healthier country. Our children will be much healthier because malnourishment, the stunted growth of children, the girls and boys is very high. I think we have largest number of stunted children in the world. Unfortunately, people forget about the unfortunate things in the glory of 4.2 or 3.8 trillion dollars economy GDP. So it's a large number of stunted children and women, girl children and boy children. So this can be prevented easily. The stunted growth means it's a total waste. They're simply wasted. It's unfortunate. Very sad. They die very soon. So the insanitation and malnourishment go hand in hand. They create very difficult problems, complex problems, almost unsolvable problems for our young children and boys. It's very sad. And it can easily, this is one problem which can be easily solved with proper will, as Dr. Prashant said. You need more willpower than money. You don't need too much of money also for solving most of the difficult problems. A metro train in Delhi or Hyderabad may cost you 180 crores or 160 crores a kilometer. But here, you don't need so much money. A Boeing plane will cost you around 900 crores. It's a Boeing 737. But here, you can build a toilet for 2,000 rupees and you can clean the sewers with a little bit of tweak in the policy of the local governments. And then the union government can take the lead. And all of us know that health and education are, of course, the concurrent subjects. And this is blessing in disguise, and sometimes it also creates problems. And let me now focus a little bit on the so-called social sector parameters. And all of us know that social sector development broadly refers to betterment of health, education, drinking water supply, sanitation, housing, roads, electricity, and other facilities to people. And most of these are public goods in India in the language of public finance. So 70% of the Indians live, of course, in villages, and the sanitation is slowly, steadily improving because now the government somehow has, I was surprised, the present government and the Prime Minister's obsession for toilets, which is unthinkable. And I think when like most of the subjects which are taken by the PMO, I found somebody wrote an article, I think Kaushik or someone. He said, if some issue is taken up by the Prime Minister's office directly, then it can be solved very fast. For example, you can achieve good results. Unlike other public goods. For example, take DRDO, take ISRO, take nuclear research, take defense research. These are all under the direct supervision of the Prime Minister's office, and are success stories, fortunately. Whereas sanitation was never. Sanitation is relegated to a very unimportant department of Ministry of Rural Development those days. When I was a student of this, I was working on this problem, and I found one very interesting anecdote. During Manmohan Singh government, there was a Maharashtra politician, Congress politician, who was inducted as Minister for MOS, Minister of State for Sanitation and Drinking Water. I'm sure you would have noticed this. This came in newspapers also. And that man flatly refused. He said, I'm a senior politician. It's a useless subject. It's an unimportant subject, sanitation and drinking water. You're insulting me by offering me this department. So this is the mindset of our politicians, because foreign affairs and international trade and finance and home are the prestigious ministries in union government. So drinking water and sanitation are unfortunately very unimportant ministries in the minds of our politicians, or you can call it the importance being given to each ministry. And one more point I would like to initiate is this. In the social sector, normally we think that if you spend more money, obviously you can achieve many big things. So any sensible person will think so. If you allocate more money from the government exchequer for a particular subject, whether it is education or health or water, etc., you achieve good results. If you reduce the allocation, the results will be poor. This is the situation. Very interestingly, I found that somebody wrote an article on this also, I think it was Telangana or someone. It is not the money which is allocated or being in the budget. We have around this year, I think the budget is around 29.75 lakh crores in the union budget, and quite a lot of it goes for defense, around 5 to 6 lakh crores. And when it comes to education and health, the percentage as percentage of total allocation, total budget expenditure, comes down to 2%, 1%, 3%, and 4% is very big. In fact, the goal is to achieve allocate 4 to 6%. I think it is less than around 3% only even now. But very interestingly, we find that somebody said it is not the money. 3% of 30 lakh crores is not a small amount at all. It's also good money. But it's not the total amount that is allocated for a particular subject by the government, central government or state government. It is the quality of expenditure which is more important. How you spend the money is more important than how much money you have allocated or how much money you have spent. How you spend, the quality of expenditure, or you can call it expenditure management, or you can call it efficiency of management, efficiency of expenditure. If you spend the same amount efficiently, you can still achieve good results. Let me give you a small example. If you take the percentages, very interestingly, you find that Sri Lanka, Thailand allocate almost the same. They're also around 3% only, roughly. A few years back, I've seen those data. They found they produce spectacular results. You know that in Sri Lanka, I do go there, some here and there sometimes for lectures. They achieved almost 90%, and their longevity, the average lifespan is around 83 years. We are still around 67 or 70 years. So it is not the amount in crores or dollars or millions of dollars, etc., or millions of rupees or crores of rupees. The way you spend the money without corruption, without wastage. I feel sometimes wastage is more cruel than corruption even. Normally, public money is wasted. But here the corruption part, that's all of us know about it. That is another long story. But the wastefulness that is involved in the government expenditure is very unfortunate. That is more devastating than the corruption itself, I found. That's what I realized. Well, you may disagree with me. The Thailand and even if you take smaller countries like Vietnam, Myanmar, especially Vietnam and Malaysia, and all these countries also allocate this much only. Nobody allocates 10% of the GDP the total allocation for education and health. Yeah, they have other pressing needs. Like as we have pressing needs of defense, we spend around 6 lakh crores. So we have to retain the big chunk of Kashmir with us and big chunk of Arunachal with us, and we have permanent enemies. There is no solution in sight, so we have to spend money. There's no way. And you can't blame the government for doing that. You have to spend it. So, but obviously, if you spend more there, you have little money left for other sectors. You have to little. So, but if the money is spent very efficiently, if the per capita or the productivity of each will be spent as public expenditure is high, still you can achieve good results. That's what my point is. And one more thing is one more point I would like to say is the education and the soft power which we have, India boasts of. Well, we have great institutions. Jawaharlal Nehru started the IITs under the MIT model during Eisenhower time, and they are the toast of the world and toast of India. So in the case of IIMs, AMS, JIPMER, PGH, Chandigarh, etc., there are so many institutions. But education being a concurrent subject, it is under control of the state governments. Higher education being by and large taken care of the central government. Advanced research like Indian Institute of Science or National Physical Laboratory, etc., these are under the control of the central government, or you can say jurisdiction of the central government. So vast section of education sector, obviously the responsibility is with the state governments. And states, obviously, if you have states, then only you have India. There is nothing called central government. So it's the state governments which have a tremendous role. Now, the question of money, obviously state governments have enormous responsibilities. All the people live there. 24 crores live in, 23 crores live in Uttar Pradesh, and similarly Maharashtra has enormous population, etc., So they have to collect taxes. They do get some money from the central government or the central transfers, so-called finance commission, transfers, etc. Now, the money being spent by the center and states is in lakhs of crores on education and health, but still it is not yielding good results, unfortunately. So it's a researchable issue for many young students. So it's a researchable issue. So with the present allocation also, I feel, obviously, I will be too happy. All of us will be too happy if you are able to allocate 6% of the GDP, total budget allocation for health and education. Nothing like it. Or you can, if you are able to do that. But unfortunately, most of the state governments are short of funds, as all of us know, and virtually every state is caught in a public finance mess, fiscal mess, because of more expenditure, and due to the pay commission rewards, the gratuity, pensions, etc., and salaries. So little money is left for the social sector. So most of the states like Andhra, if you go to the reports, so the RBI, the allocation as percentage of GSDP, the gross domestic product of each state, you find that in Andhra, it is always around 1 to 1.5% only. In some years, it has come down to 0.4%, 0.45% health. In the health sector, the Andhra government has been spending only 0.45 or 0.5% only of the total GSDP. If you look into the numbers, they are very, very shocking. So very little money is being spent because they don't have money after meeting their essential expenditures like salaries, etc., and of course interest payments. And almost every state is heavily indebted, as some public finance economists wrote. Most of the states are not economically viable also. Anyway, it's a different story. Another day for discussion about these things. So the more is spent and more efficiently spent on social sector and education and health, we can achieve good results, and we can provide good quality of life to the people. And so that, as somebody said, even a poor man has fundamental right to live in a clean environment. A rich man need not, only a clean environment need not be given to people living in Vasant Vihar or Jubilee Hills or Banjara Hills or Gachibowli. So every poor man, poor woman has a right to live in a clean environment, dirt-free environment, smell-free environment, or mosquito-less environment, or garbage-less environment. And it's not difficult; it can be done. But there has to be efficiency in public expenditure and efficiency in the government administration. And we have to find a solution. As I find, for example, I think that in the sewage problem, the drains and full of filth and garbage can be easily solved. It's not a difficult problem. But you have to think out of the box and you have to find a win-win situation, show profit to the private sector and solve this problem so that the poorest of the poor can also live with dignity and grace and confidence and in a healthy environment. Thank you very much.
ప్రొఫెసర్ అచ్యుత రామరాజు గారు సుమారుగా 1:05 సమయం పాటు భారతదేశంలో సామాజిక రంగం అభివృద్ధిలో పారిశుద్ధ పాత్ర అనేటువంటి అంశం మీద చాలా లోతైనటువంటి విశ్లేషణ చేశారు. ప్రధానంగా వారు పారిశుద్ధ్యం అనేటువంటిది కేవలం సామాజిక సమస్య మాత్రమే కాదు, ప్రజల గౌరవానికి సంబంధించినటువంటి విషయం అనేటువంటి చెప్తూనే మహాత్మా గాంధీ గురించి కూడా వారు ప్రధానంగా చెప్పడం అనేటువంటి జరిగింది. ముఖ్యంగా భారతదేశాన్ని మరియు ఇతర దేశాలైనటువంటి కంబోడియా అండ్ మలేషియా లాంటి దేశాల్లో పారిశుభ్రత లేదా శానిటేషన్ అనేటువంటి చాలా శుభ్రంగా ఉంటుంది, క్లీన్గా ఉంటుంది అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా చెప్పారు. అదేవిధంగా ఈ దేశం లోపల ఈ డయేరియా అనేటువంటి వ్యాధులతోని కూడా చనిపోయేటువంటి చిన్నపిల్లలు ప్రతి నిమిషానికి 4 పిల్లలు చనిపోతున్నారు అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా వారు చాలా స్పష్టంగా తెలియజేశారు. వారికి మా తెలంగాణ జనవేదిక తరఫున ప్రత్యేకమైనటువంటి ధన్యవాదాలు సార్. ఇప్పుడు సార్ని ఎవరైనా ప్రశ్నలు కానీ ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ కానీ ఉంటే దయచేసి రేజ్ యువర్ హ్యాండ్స్ ప్లీజ్. యా, ఎనీబడి? అశోక్ బాబు సార్, అశోక్ బాబు గారు మాట్లాడండి. అశోక్ బాబు గారు.
సార్ నమస్కారం సార్. ఇవాళ చాలా మంచి టాపిక్ ఇది, సమాజానికి కావాల్సిన అంశము. బాగా నెగ్లెక్ట్ చేస్తాము. ముఖ్యంగా మనది భారతదేశము వ్యవసాయక దేశము. వ్యవసాయక దేశంలో పశు పక్షాదులు ఉంటాయి హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్స్తో పాటు. ప్లస్ ఈ రూరల్ ఇండియా ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి విలేజెస్లో కూడా వాళ్ళు క్లీన్లీనెస్ మెయింటెనెన్స్ కోసం వాళ్ళకు అంటే ముఖ్యంగా గ్రామ పంచాయతీలు ఎఫెక్టివ్గా పని చేయకపోవడం వల్ల కూడా ఇట్లాంటి సార్ చెప్పినట్టు ఎన్నో అవాంఛనీయ సంఘటనలు అంటే ఈ పేద మధ్యతరగతి ధనిక వర్గాలు వాళ్ళకి ఎకనామిక్ స్టేటస్ని బట్టి వాళ్ళు నిర్మించుకునే స్థాయిని బట్టి శానిటేషన్ ఉంటుంది. అయితే సారు మంచి అబ్జర్వేషన్ చెప్పారు. హై క్లాస్ బిల్డింగ్స్ పెద్ద పెద్ద టవర్స్ ఉన్నప్పటికీ దాని చుట్టుపక్కల స్లమ్స్ కనుక ఉంటే ఎట్లాగూ అంటే వాళ్ళకు వచ్చే వాటర్ కానీ వెళ్ళే డ్రైనేజ్ కానీ ఇవన్నీ కంపు కొట్టి వాళ్ళకు హైజీనిక్ కండిషన్స్ ఉండే అనేది చెప్పిండ్రు. అంటే ఇది సామాజిక బాధ్యత ప్రజలందరిది. అంటే ఈ పురపాలక సంఘాలు కానీ గ్రామ పంచాయతీలు కానీ సార్ చెప్పినట్టు ఫండ్స్ ఉన్నా కానీ ఎఫెక్టివ్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ లేకపోవడం వల్ల తర్వాత మనుషుల్లో కూడా ఒక ఏంటిది సెన్సిటివిటీ, వాళ్ళు ఎక్కడ ఉమ్మేయాలి, మనం ఎట్లా పరిశుభ్రంగా ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ను చుట్టుపక్కలది ఉంచుకోవాలి అనే ఆ సివిక్ సెన్స్ లేకపోవడం వల్ల కూడా ఇట్లాంటి స్థితి ఉంది. ప్రచారానికి ప్రభుత్వాలు ఎన్ని ఖర్చు పెట్టినా అది దండగా, క్షేత్రస్థాయిలో అధికారులు పనిచేయాల్సిన బాధ్యత ఉందని తెలియజేస్తూ నాకు ఈ అవకాశాన్ని ఇచ్చినందుకు ధన్యవాదాలు సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ అశోక్ బాబు గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. నౌ ఐ కాల్
Swati Mishra.
Swati Mishra. Swati Mishra, madam.
Good evening, sir. So thank you for the lecture today. We got to learn a lot from your experiences and the superstition that is around the sanitation development in India and its comparison to the other developing nations or nations that are even less developed than India. So one of my questions, based on the infrastructure setup, it is that like mostly the urban areas where we are seeing lots of migration and the setup of urban slums, it is obvious that the sanitation part there is very much poor. But in the rural setting where the population is decreasing and it's not as populous, so why has the infrastructure built up for the sanitation development is taking so long, especially in the rural sector?
Thanks, Amma. See here, the rural-urban migration is one of the features of developing countries. It is very positive. No, all of us, in fact, you and me, all of us have migrated from our villages. I migrated to Delhi, you migrated to Hyderabad. So it is good. In fact, there's nothing absolutely wrong. More urbanization means more wealth created. More urban, more wealth created for the economy, and obviously, more the migration, more will the GDP, rise in the GDP. Just like women empowerment. If more women are employed in the workforce, more the rise of GDP will be much higher than the percentage of female participation in the workforce. So nothing absolutely wrong in migration. In fact, I love migration, frankly, because I've been a migrant myself. All of us. In Delhi, there have been so many migrants from Pakistan and Bangladesh, especially from Pakistan. All of them have done very well. Even I have done very well after coming from my village. So migration is a very positive thing. In fact, it's a positive externality. It contributes very positively. Now, it becomes a challenge, as you rightly said. The large number of people congregate in a very small area, and their average incomes are much higher than the rural incomes. So obviously what happens, their purchasing power is much higher. Obviously, they consume more things. And they consume a lot of things. And obviously, a lot of plastic waste is one of the results. Apart from as you said, because of the huge congregation of people, there will be more waste produced. Well, and because of this, it is Jamuna or Ganga, and all the rivers are polluted and they're killed, virtually killed. So here is the problem where it's a challenge basically. It's a problem of game theory rather. You have to solve it. You have to solve it very, very carefully. You have to use technology here. Technology plays a tremendous role here, and I feel all of us accept it. I give this example to my students in the classroom. Take the case of, since we have given the right example of migration, take the case of Delhi. Delhi's population and New York's population are almost same, 1.5 crores or 1.6 crores. But the average income of a Delhiite is of course very high compared to Indian standards relatively, in relative terms. It is just less than half of average New Yorker, the average per capita income of a New Yorker, right? Now, the city, Delhi, produces around 13,000 metric tons of waste every day, solid waste every day. And New York produces around 26,000 tons of 25 to 26,000 metric tons of waste every day, solid waste every day. And we have Jamuna here, there are Hudson there. So which should be more dirty? Which city should be more dirty? Because they are producing 2 times the waste of Delhi. New York should be very, very dirty and Delhi should be relatively cleaner. But the reality is the other way. Why it is so? It's a policy. It's because of the policies they implement and the way they solve the problem. They use, of course, technology. They tax the people very well. If you take, if I converted this into rupees, if you take per month, you have to pay roughly water tax of around 14,000 for an average household of 4 people in New York. Ask my cousin there. He said they pay around roughly 14,000 per month in rupees. I converted around, that was around 62 rupees per dollar. And gas, of course, is around that much, 15,000. And electricity also they pay around 15,000 now. But New York takes care of their drains and sewers with the money which they are collecting. As for 14,000 per each household, they maintain their drains very clean, and you won't find any garbage, you won't find any mosquitoes there. They clean the drains, they provide you excellent water, drinking water, etc., etc. And they use, since they produce 26,000 tons of tons of waste, solid waste, they have a technology called incinerator technology, which all of you would be knowing. It means you dump all these things and burn it off and produce electricity. And you need electricity to run an incinerator. So incinerator technology is time tested now. Most of the Western cities, European cities, New York, London, all these cities, earlier were dirty, now they're very clean because of this incinerator technology. So as somebody, once Indian Express said, when Obama came to Delhi, he said, we should not ask him nuclear reactors, we should ask him more incinerators to keep our cities cleaner. So here there's a role for technology, but incinerator technology is expensive. Nothing is free or cheaper in this world. You have to pay for everything. You have to pay, and most of us can pay, of course. Most of us can pay, but we want all the free goods from the people, from the government, which is not tenable, which is not practical. In a market economy like ours. So in Delhi also, if you use the incinerator technology, this rural-urban migration problem, the muck and the squalor and their filth and waste being produced in huge quantities can be solved. And for this, again, I come back to my original hypothesis. Tax the people well, but create confidence in them that your money is safe with us. We will spend every rupee you pay a house tax to us for yourself, for you. It won't be wasted, it won't be embezzled. If you pay 5,000 rupees per house in Delhi or Hyderabad, we'll use all this money, few thousand crores which you spend, on the roads and the sewers and the drains and the incinerators. Example, as Dr. Prashant said, most of the sewage plants, STP, they call it STP enter. The sewage treatment plant in Delhi are dysfunctional. For example, we have one plant called STP in Okla. It already operates, it has been operating since I was a young student here. It has been operating at the average efficiency of 30 to 40% only. It never crossed 40%. Similarly, another STP plant near the Haryana border, that is also working around 45% or 50% only. It's a relatively new STP. And the remaining 2 STPs and the remaining waste, muck and garbage is dumped in Jamuna. So obviously you have a Jamuna which is sinking and which is very dirty. And so here money is not a problem. I'm sure all of us can pay enough money. If the government generates confidence in me that these guys will not waste their money, they will keep the city clean, I'll be prepared to pay that much of tax. And as I said, scale economies are very good here in India. That means that a lower tax also, with lower expenditure also, since our average costs are low, you can achieve spectacular results. You need not pay like those guys, 14,000 or 15,000 rupees every month in New York. If you spend 5,000 rupees every year, that's good enough. You can achieve spectacular results if the money is spent well. Here the efficiency of public expenditure is more important than the quantity of the money that is collected as tax revenue. Thank you. Anything
Thank
else?
you, madam. Thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
Manoj Reddy
sir.
garu.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Like, scavenging of the sewers is very common in India.
Hmm.
Like manual scavenging, especially. Lots of cases have been filed in the court and have been fought for their rights. But it is only now that the government is recognizing the necessity to provide PPE to this manual scavengers. What
Yeah.
has taken so long for the government to recognize the rights of the health sanitation workers in India?
Well, your answer is as good as mine. It is so sad and unfortunate, and we haven't bothered about the malnourished women and children for 50 years or 70 years. And obviously, we also have, we haven't treated these scavengers as human beings. It is a shame on all of us. All of us should be ashamed. I am myself ashamed, frankly. I attended a conference on scavenging last year. I told them that all of us should feel ashamed as Indians. There's nothing else I can say because there is no way, except paying a little more tax, I can't do much about it, except supporting, giving my support to them. Very sad, extremely sad.
Correct, correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's one hand raised,
Manoj.
iPhone 13 Pro Max. James, will you please unmute him?
Ramarao garu, thank you. I'm Professor Sudarshan Rao from Visakhapatnam.
Oh, good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, sir. Good.
I just wanted to congratulate Ramaraju, who is a good friend of mine. We know each other for the last 40 years. It's a good presentation
Yes.
on a good topic. I think this is your PhD thesis, no?
Yes.
Then I was the head of the department. You made a presentation. You
Yes.
got good reports also.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I just wanted to reflect on some of the issues, mainly one or two policy issues. That actually the Central Rural Sanitation Program was started in 1886, long back.
Yeah.
But not much strides were made. Only a spurt of activity regarding rural sanitation, especially. Sanitation in general and rural sanitation took place after Swachh Bharat mission in October 2014. Then they came up with a new technology of individual sanitary ISL, very popular known as ISL. At that time, they put a target of almost 2 lakh to construct 2 lakh sanitary latrines, and that gave good results. But in 17-18, I think 2017-18, still at that time, the open defecation was about 25%, 23 to 25%. And with regard to, I heard your lecture, though I missed it in the initial of your presentation. Sanitation is a public good. You told it. Sanitation is a public good. In the bifurcation, I mean, in the what we call functional division also, sanitation was given to the rural governments, regional governments, state or local governments. But there is no role. In fact, you said PMO is monitoring the system. It is enough if the PMO or the central government allocates some budgetary resources or through a flagship program and leave the responsibility of discharging, either monitoring or whatever it is, to the local governments only. Then only they will be very effective.
Yeah.
And one more thing I would like to place before you is, of course, you also referred the local governments and NGOs. They have a greater role to play. If at all we have to achieve 100% ODF, that is very, very important. In the absence of an active sarpanch or local government, especially in the rural areas, it is very difficult. And also I would like to add the caste panchayats or caste associations also. See, whatever number of officials they go and, or NGOs go and tell about the advantages of are disadvantages of open defecation, they don't listen. Only the caste associations can make a mark. That is my observation. And with regard to that, I made a small field study. The very purpose of intervention is one to greet you after a long time. The other one is to share some of my observations with regard to a field study. It took place in North Coastal Andhra Pradesh with regard to the most underprivileged sections of the society. In Srikakulam and Vijayanagaram, I made a field study in 2017, October to December. With regard to sanitation, especially individual sanitary latrines, one is the taboo. The households, especially the heads of the household, have a taboo of not to have it within the house premises. So they are not permitting. That is one important thing. Especially this came true when the female is the head of the household. Mostly widows generally, but that is one observation we made. That is a field study observation. The other thing is the mindset and outlook. You also referred. Unless there is a change in the mindset and outlook, it's not very easy. But it won't. Outcomes will not be very positive. The other important limitation they told us is water, scarcity of water. Of course, there was a new technology developed which consumes less water, but still they are not convinced. Because you see, there is no water to drink in some of the colonies. Then how to pump water into the sanitary this thing that has become another limitation. And one more thing is because it is our studies with reference to underprivileged people, most poorest of the poor in a way. Space is also a problem. Even the government houses, what they were given by the government, they are also very, very limited space. A single room and something like that. So space is a problem. Then we made a suggestion to the government, to the concerned people in that report, that if there is a common space like Gramakantam or Banjar Bhumi or a tank bund, near a tank bund, etc., you can construct a individual sanitary latrine, get it locked and hand over the key to the concerned household. That worked very well. That is one important observation. Near Visakhapatnam also, Kapulupada, a village adopted by our ex-Vice President of India. Venkaiah Naidu adopted that particular village. There also that example, that kind of practice worked very well. So these are some of my important observations. And one more thing is, you told that there is no relationship between income and GDP and sanitation. But I feel that the size of the GDP may not have a relevance. But irrespective of the size of the GDP, what it was allocated to the sanitation function in terms of budgetary allocations and actual spend, that is very important. Because you see, the size of GDP may be more, but what we are allocating for that particular purpose may be very little. In fact, that is we make a comparison between our neighboring small countries and India. Often we make a comparison. Of course, not now. It may not be relevant to Sri Lanka. That's a different thing. So these are some of my observations. I'm very happy to see you, Ramaraju, after a long time.
Thank you, dear friends, Vishnu Garu. It is a real pleasure listening from you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. But one last question from my side.
Okay.
The Prime Minister of India, after his election, with great fanfare and with lot of government involvement, he has started the Swachh Bharat mission. How far do you think it is successful in the sanitation program, in social network, social sector? And is it really paying any expected results as far as they were projected? Thank you.
Namaskaram, thank you. చూసారా ఇప్పుడు మీరు సురేష్ రావు గారు అడిగారు కదా ఇప్పుడు ఇప్పుడు ముందు ఇలాంటి పెద్ద దేశంలో మీరు చెప్పినట్టు ఇంతమంది రావు గారు చెప్పినట్టు ఇంతమంది అండర్ ప్రివిలేజ్ అంటే ముఖ్యంగా పూర్ పీపుల్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ us ఆర్ ఫ్రమ్ సచ్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్స్ సో వీ నో ద ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ వెరీ వెల్ సో ఈ యొక్క మిషన్ మోడ్ లో జరగాలి తప్ప మిషన్ మోడ్ లో జరగాలి చూసారా గ్రో మోర్ ఫుడ్ అని మన చిన్నప్పుడు రాఘు శాస్త్రి గారి టైంలో గ్రో మోర్ ఫుడ్ అనేది చాలా ఒక నినాదంలో ఉండేది అండ్ దట్ ఆ రోజులో అనుకున్నారు ఇదేంటి గ్రోమోర్ లో కుడితే పండిస్తుందా పంటలు అనేవారు కానీ స్లోలీ యూ రియలైజ్డ్ ద రిజల్ట్ ఈస్ దేర్ నౌ యు ఆర్ నౌ ఫుడ్ సెల్ఫ్ సఫిషియెంట్ ఇన్ ఫుడ్ రైట్స్ సో యూ హావ్ టు మేక్ ఎ బిగినింగ్ సో ద రిజల్ట్స్ వోంట్ బి స్పెక్టాక్యులర్ ఓవర్ నైట్ it took 15 years for food self-sufficiency roughly. Similarly, the Swachh Bharat also, as you rightly said, sir, is a ninadam, it's a movement, and it is picking up very well. And since it is powered by the PMO, and and more money is allocated to the states, and states are given goals, and it is very difficult to disagree with on this program. No state, whether it is opposition rule or this party or that party, no party will ever say we don't want Swachh Bharat, we don't want cleanliness. This is one fortunate thing, very good thing. Sorry, there is a general agreement on this topic. So this is that is one reason I feel is there is good progress on this. There is very impressive progress, and you can't in a country like ours, as you know, I need not tell you, it takes time. I think we are already 80 to 85% is covered under sanitation by and large. We are reaching the goal very soon. As Rao Garu said, yes, space. Most of us, our underprivileged brothers, have one room to stay. So obviously, where will you build a toilet? I have one friend from Chicago who is from Vijayanagar, Professor Prakasam. He retired from Chicago University. His mission is to he goes to Vijayanagar every day, every year. He's so attached to that place and goes to Gantyada. There's a place called Gantyada. Rao Garu will know it. He builds toilets. They call it CSC, Common Sanitary Complex (CSC), with a clean toilets and bathrooms also, and separately for ladies and gents, and with a good motor and one person to run the motor and maintain it, and electricity bills are paid by him, Professor Prakasam. So he made an arrangement, and they're maintaining the money. He told me the other day they're maintaining it very clean. He said, I'm 85, I don't know how many years I will live, so as long as I am alive, I will maintain this, and he is making arrangements for the future also. So I think there is a way, and as you said, in villages space is always a problem, as any analysis will show you. The number of toilets being used, it depends on the space a person has under his roof. That's where it's a positive correlation. And the other one is the superstition. In my whole village, my childhood friend told me not to build a toilet in my home, because he said that in Telugu ఏమన్నా అంటే కప్పులు అంటుకుపోతాయి అన్నట్టు. కప్పులు అంటుకుపోతే టాయిలెట్ ఇంట్లో కట్టకాయ బాగున్నట్టు. సో కప్పులు అంటుకుపోతే చాలా ప్రమాదం జరిగిపోద్ది అన్నాడు. సో నేను కాదురా బాబు, చాలా అవసరం రా బాబు, మీ ఇంట్లో మీద కట్టిస్తా బాగన్నారు. సో ఇలాగా అంటే సూపర్ మైండ్ సెట్, మెంటల్ బ్లాక్ ని తీయడానికి లాట్ ఆఫ్ extension or education or psychologists, especially sociologists. I found many good sociologists doing very good work in this, and they achieved spectacular results. For example, as I told you in Surat, people are scared of going into that Muslim area. And after that, they were convinced it is one of the cleanest areas, that village. And one more point is the village leadership, as Rao Garu and you yourself, kind self have pointed out, the village administration, or Manwal Chaparante Panchayati. This all, if the Panchayat has good leadership, it can do wonders. I'll give you one small example, sir, with your permission, Dr. Prashant. There is a village near Khargone in Madhya Pradesh. Myself and the district went there, and we found one village where, very interesting case study. I used to teach this, give this example in my management classes also. అక్కడ there is the Narmada foothills లో ఉంటుంది. It's a heavy rainfall for 3 months and no rainfall for 9 months. The temperature touches 50 degrees centigrade in the summers, and all the water is gone to Narmada River, and no water to drink. So all the people used to migrate to Indore and Bombay and Delhi for as migrant labor, and women also poor things used to go for these things. And it's totally dry. The agriculture was killed. So why I'm giving this example is taking your valuable time is if you have proper village leadership, you can do wonders. That has been there like that for 40 years. No government could solve it. But one young boy who became Panchayat Sarpanch, his name is KP Singh, Krishna Pal Singh. I recommended him that, Nirmal Gram Puraskar. I was in the committee those days. I recommended him for that. I also went to Rashtrapati Bhavan, and Kalam was the president, Manishankar Iyer was the minister. So, this guy he did spectacular work in this village. How he solved the problem, sir? It amazes me. I give this story to so many people. I enjoy doing it. This boy with his friends, what he did, there were some caves, in the British time. They used to dig limestone. And the water in the rainy season, all the water was diverted into those caves by this guy. He and his friends. A lot of water was pumped in. That means it is sort of water storage, or what do you call it in Telugu? Inkudu antam kada. So water harvesting. So we did that as an experiment, and all the village wells were full of water later in a month or so. And after that, then he realized the trick. Then every time he and his friends would, all the village would go and divert the water into these small, deep pits of limestone which were used in the British time. So the water problem is solved, and now the village is very green and rich now. So this guy, of course, he made toilets also. That is there mandatory now there in those villages. The district collector won't allow anyone, any village president to remain without the toilets being built for every home. He's very, as you said, the local administration, the bureaucracy has a tremendous role in this, more than the politicians even. The money is allocated, but it's a district administration which makes the expenditure very efficient and very transparent, and especially access to the poorest of the poor. That's more important for us. There is no point in having a toilet for you and me. What the government can ensure is they can see that the access to drinking water and sanitation, a clean toilet, smellless toilet, and clean water, drinking water is available to each and everyone, irrespective of their income, especially underprivileged. The poorest of the poor. And the whole village is now full of they grow this amla. Amla ante usirikai. It's full of amla, that village, and they're exporting amla to Indore, Bombay, and Delhi, and making a lot of money. And it's full of chana dal. It's pulses. Madhya Pradesh produces largest amount of pulses in the country. All of you know. So a lot of chana dal and moong dal means pasarpappu. They're all produced and exported, and then the farmers become very rich now. And it's a very poor village. All those people who went to Bombay and Delhi went back, and they're doing it with the chana. So one smart guy, a smart leader in the village, has solved a problem which hasn't been solved for the last 50 years by innovative solution, a simple solution, just using the water, harvesting. The water is being harvested with them. So we gave him an award, Nirmal Gram Puraskar. And I was there, I was so happy. He came to me, he is in touch with me even now. He invites me to his village. Of course, I cannot now go. This is something which opened my eyes, sir. And so village leadership, as Rao Garu said, that the village leadership, local leadership, and efficiency of public expenditure, and the money, public money being spent without embezzlement. That's very important. Each and every rupee should be spent for the good, for the benefit of the poor, poorest of the poor. That's very, very important. And that means we need a good structural mechanism to prevent corruption, like good accounting agencies, like CAG or state auditing, good audit agencies to monitor each and every rupee of expenditure and accounting. Not only corruption takes place in these public works. Public works means corruption. So if you are able to prevent that, you can achieve spectacular results. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request James. Do you have anything to say?
I just wanted to make a quick comment, sir. Neither you look nor sound as retired, sir. We really
Yeah, sure. 7 now. Ramanan and myself are the same age.
we really enjoyed your talk. It was brilliant. It was a masterpiece on policy making on sanitation. We are really grateful
Absolutely.
to have heard from a senior most academician, and we are much left with a lot of knowledge, and also your enthusiasm and passion for the subject is something else, and we are really grateful that you could share your knowledge with us. Thank you so much, and
Thank
love to hear from you again on a different subject that maybe.
Thank you,
Some
sir.
other
Thank
time.
you. James,
Thank
will you please unmute Manoj? He will formally propose the vote of thanks and thank Professor Achitram Razu for his wonderful, excellent.
Thank you. Very kind of.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Achitram Raju, for giving us the time. Thank you so much, sir, because this is the time for a wonderful session like this, because in rainy season, a lot of mosquitoes burst up, and sanitation is the most important for everyone. Because in the sanitation subject and in this topic, we should remember the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi ji, for this. And thank you so much, sir, for giving us the time. And thank you, Ramana, for conducting such a wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Okay, you are not proposing, you don't want to propose any vote of thanks. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
You do it, please.
I on behalf of, Narasimha, you want to speak anything? Please go ahead. Narasimha garu, మీరు ఏమైనా మాట్లాడతారా? మాట్లాడండి. Hello? Okay. Anyway. Please mute
I think
him.
maybe he unmuted.
Yeah, please mute him. Yeah. I profusely thank Professor Achitram Razu for this excellent talk on behalf of Telangana Jana Vedika and its members and all the presidium. And it was really a wonderful talk. We expect to have another talk with him on similar subject, or probably he being an economic background, probably he will have some economics too, because he brought in economics today. When Swati asked a question, he brought in economics about with migration and all. I would have loved to ask him some questions on that, but this is not the right time to ask him. We'll have him some other time. And thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful talk. And it has really enlightened the whole gathering here, so far as the open defecation and all these are concerned. And the superstitions also, you have taken every point to be covered in this vast Indian populace. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. And next week we'll have another topic, and the same time we'll have. And I'm sorry for the delay in the start, because there is power outage in our place. And unfortunately, the inverter, which was working very well, it conked off yesterday. That was very misfortune. And I'm very sorry, but still, we loved this subject. We loved this talk, sir. Thank you so much.